He thought he was invisible, just another face in the crowd. But when a white officer spat in his face without a second thought, he didn't realize who he was disrespecting. What started as a simple, unnoticed moment of cruelty was about to explode into a revelation that would shake an entire police department to its core. In a precinct where power and prejudice ran deep, one man's undercover mission would expose a truth no one wanted to face. This isn't just a story about one act of hate. It's about what happens when justice confronts ignorance head-on. Stay with me, because what happens next will change everything. On a muggy Tuesday morning in August, James Carter stepped out of his car into the quiet streets of Millbrook, a small town nestled deep in the heart of the South. Wearing a plain gray hoodie, faded jeans, and worn sneakers, James didn't look like the man who had spent nearly 20 years in law enforcement, rising through the ranks to become one of the most respected detectives in the state. Today, he had one mission: to see his department through an unfiltered lens. Millbrook's police precinct was notorious for its rigid culture and whispers of racial bias. As the newly appointed police chief, James wanted to understand the true atmosphere among his officers, not just the polished reports or rehearsed speeches. He chose to blend in, to walk the halls anonymously, to witness firsthand how officers treated those they considered beneath them, especially men like him. The precinct's parking lot buzzed with activity. Officers gathered in small groups, laughing, swapping stories, and eyeing the newcomer with curiosity. No one recognized James, and he preferred it that way. He adjusted the hood over his head and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the challenge ahead. He knew resistance was inevitable, but this undercover walk was his first step toward change, a change that many weren't ready to accept. With a calm but determined gaze, James pushed open the precinct's heavy doors, stepping into a world that had long ignored the voices of the people it was supposed to protect. Little did he know, today would bring a moment that would shake the very foundation of the department and his own resolve. James moved quietly through the precinct, blending into the background as officers bantered and went about their routines. The air was thick with the smell of stale coffee and the hum of ringing phones. He observed small groups gathered near desks, some exchanging jokes, others reviewing paperwork. Yet beneath the surface he sensed an undercurrent of hostility, a tension that simmered just beneath the smiles and laughter. As he passed the break room, a group of officers eyed him with suspicion. One man, Officer Blake, a white officer known for his bluntness and hardline attitude, stepped forward. His eyes narrowed as he took in James's unassuming appearance. Without warning, Blake spat on James's jacket, the warm spit landing squarely on his chest. The room fell silent for a heartbeat. Then a ripple of laughter and whispers broke out among the watching officers. James's heart pounded, but he held his ground. The insult wasn't just personal. It was a message, a reminder of how deeply ingrained prejudice was in this place. Blake's smirk and the laughter around him made it clear this wasn't an isolated act, but part of a culture that tolerated, even encouraged, disrespect toward those who didn't fit the old mold. Despite the humiliation, James did not react with anger. Instead, he calmly wiped the spit from his jacket, his mind racing. This moment confirmed what he already suspected. Beneath the badge, beneath the uniform, there were wounds that had long been ignored, and now it was his responsibility to heal them. As the officers resumed their conversations, James quietly slipped away, ready to reveal his true identity and confront the culture that had allowed such behavior to fester. The stakes were higher than ever, and the fight for respect, fairness, and justice was about to begin. The room was thick with tension as James stepped forward to reveal his true identity. The smug confidence that had filled Officer Blake's eyes just moments ago now drained away, replaced by shock and disbelief. The officers who had laughed moments before fell silent, all eyes turning toward the man standing at the front of the room, James, the newly appointed police chief. The weight of the moment pressed down on everyone present. Blake's bravado crumbled as James calmly addressed the room. His voice, steady and commanding, cut through the uneasy silence. He spoke of respect, accountability, and the duty each officer had, not just to their badge, but to the community they served. The very man Blake had spat upon was now the highest authority in the department, a man who would no longer tolerate the toxic culture festering within those walls. Blake's face flushed red, shame and anger flickering in his eyes. James's gaze locked onto him, unwavering and firm. The insult wasn't just against a man, it was against the entire department and the ideals it was supposed to uphold. James made it clear such behavior would not be tolerated and consequences would follow. The room hung on every word as James announced Blake's immediate suspension pending an internal investigation. The message was clear. The era of turning a blind eye was over. Officers who clung to prejudice and disrespect would be held accountable. This was more than discipline. It was a turning point. In that charged silence, the officers faced a choice: cling to old, broken ways or step into a future defined by integrity and respect. James's presence alone was a challenge, a promise that change was coming, and no one would be above it. The room, once filled with laughter and scorn, was now a crucible of transformation, where the first cracks of a new beginning appeared. After that day, the precinct was never the same. James didn't just stop at Blake's suspension. He set out to rebuild the entire culture from the ground up. It wasn't easy. Deep-rooted prejudices didn't disappear overnight, and some officers resisted the change with quiet resentment or open defiance. But James was determined. He walked the halls regularly, speaking with officers and staff, listening to concerns, and reminding everyone of their shared responsibility to the community. Small victories began to accumulate. Officers who had once been silent or complicit started standing up against injustice. New training programs on bias and respect were introduced. James made it clear that accountability was not negotiable. Misconduct would be investigated and justice would be served, no matter the rank or history of those involved. The community, once skeptical and distant, began to notice the shift. Trust, so badly fractured, was slowly being repaired through outreach and genuine effort. One moment stood out to James. A young boy approached him at a community event, eyes full of doubt and hope, asking if the police truly cared. That encounter reminded James why he had taken on the role, to create a department that served and protected everyone equally. Though progress was slow and sometimes painful, James believed every step forward was worth it. The question remained for all of us: how far are we willing to go to confront injustice where it lives, even when it's uncomfortable? Because real change starts not with punishment, but with courage. Courage to face the truth and the strength to do better.